All right, what's up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast. And it's been several years since I've done this, but I thought it would be really cool to bring back our GSD Mode knowledge rounds, which is where those of you that are watching or listening to this podcast, shoot in your questions, send me your questions, whether it be topics, specific questions that you have, and answer those here on the podcast. So during my last real estate tip, I ended it with asking, hey, if you have any questions, anything I can serve support with, anything that you want me to discuss, topic ideas, so forth, shoot that over to me and I'll go ahead and, do my best to answer those questions here on the podcast. So, I had one come in and wanted to go through this today. That way we can go through actual scenarios, actual things that you guys are dealing with inside your real estate business, whether you're an individual agent, team leader, brokerage owner, agent on a team, whatever it may be. Nothing's really off limits with me personally. For those of you that, know me and have been longtime listeners and watchers of this podcast. So did these years ago called GSD Mode Knowledge Rounds. And I'm like, hey man, let's bring this back. So with that being said, if you have any questions, any topic ideas, any things that you would like to see me discuss, do a deeper dive into here on the podcast, or if you have guest recommendations that you'd love to see me interview here on the podcast, shoot me an email at joshua@gsdmode.com, joshua@gsdmode.com. Or you can, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can comment on YouTube. I know most of you are listening to this via audio. We get about 10x the amount of downloads on audio that we do YouTube. But either way, you can reach me. And if you shoot me the email and you don't want me to mention your name, I can read through your question, go through that topic without actually, reading that. I don't know if you guys like call outs or not. Now, with this particular person that shot in this question here today, and it's really twofold as far as the questions here that they shot in. I'm not going to mention their name just because, I didn't say that I was going to be, doing call outs here in the podcast. So I'm going to leave names out of it here, but I'm going to go into the question. I'll read the question and then I'm going to jump into my responses. So this one is really two parts here. And I'll break it down into two parts. So here's the email that I got. So I'm going to read it here. So, hey, Joshua, so appreciate all your knowledge and willingness to share the reality and not sugarcoating anything. We have a real estate business here in Southwest Florida. I would love for you to do a podcast about how bad prospecting techniques from many others over the past have made it more and more difficult. I prospect several different pillars myself, but the BS that we all now have to overcome before even getting to the point of having a conversation with our leads has reached a level of insanity. I wholeheartedly believe that so many in our industry have abused cold calls with a focus of transaction volume versus the ability to actually create relationship, and it is now hurting us. So the topic I would love to hear more about is wrong versus right prospecting techniques and systems that will allow us to set us apart. All right, so this is part one. The second part has to do with what they're experiencing in their market with, just some with low transaction volume, but also, with Florida specifically, some, hurricane challenges. Now, you might not be in Florida when those of you that are listening to this, and you might be like, well, I don't have hurricanes, but there could be other challenges that you face in your market for other reasons as to why that second part would be powerful for you. So I do recommend that you listen to that. But let's first hit on, the first part here, the first pillar of this question. So wrong versus right prospecting techniques and systems that will allow us to set us apart. So, and look, I agree with you in that, unfortunately, there is a contingent of the real estate population that gives the rest of the real estate population a bad name, right? There's always a percent, and this holds true probably for any industry. I don't want to say that real estate is different from this. When it comes into this, and this is something I've been battling my whole entire career. For 18 years that I've been doing this, I haven't really necessarily seen more of an uptick of what you would call bad prospecting versus good prospecting, and I don't even personally like to think of in the terms of good versus bad. I think of effective versus ineffective, right? Because it's not just our industry. I mean, there's a lot of unfortunately, there is a big enough percentage of our industry that are when I say amateurs, what I mean by that don't treat this as a true business, that don't approach this as a true professional, that can give us a bad name. And whether that be from, prospecting or so when it comes to, lead generation and their follow-up techniques, whether that be of, how they represent their clients or represent themselves, in this industry, there's a lack of professionalism that exists. We're in an industry where there's a very low barrier to entry, so like, I was talking with, somebody that I met not too long ago that is a hairstylist, and now they're transitioning into real estate. And I asked them, I said, well, how many hours did you have to go through? Like, what was your schooling like? And how many hours did you have to go through school in order to cut hair? And I can't remember the exact answer, but it's like 10 times the amount of money and time to just go out there and be, be a licensed, whatever you call that for cutting hair, right? So I'm like, man, it's crazy how, I can go through a 2-week crash course, spend under $1,000, here in Arizona and be licensed to go out there and, help people with one of the biggest financial transactions of their lifetime, right? It is mind-boggling, but there's a plus side to that too. And I'm just going to speak this from a selfish level, personally, when I was 23 years old, I was broke. I was a college dropout. When I got into real estate, it was one of the things that allowed me to jump into this career and go out there and be such a life changer for me, because I didn't have to go back to school for, I didn't have to go to a university for 4 years, didn't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, so there's a good and bad to everything. Yeah. Right. But then the other thing I want you guys to be thinking about here, and, to those that, person that asked the question here is, it's not just the resistance from bad prospecting techniques or what you deem to be bad prospecting techniques. And I understand why you're saying this, right? So I'm not, trying to combat you by what you're saying here, because I get it. I understand it. We all have to deal with it, but it also is, think of it just all industries, right? It's not just that, people are getting so flooded with realtors that they're getting pissed off. It's that, man, we are sold so many times and it just keeps exponentially adding more and more and more. When I first entered this industry, I think the statistics were around 1,000 to 2,000 times a day that the average person is being commercially sold. Now today it's like above 5,000, and we don't have the mental capacity as human beings to really be able to go out there and handle that. So it's not just our industry, it's everything. We're sold 24/7 all day long, consciously, subconsciously, billboards, ads on the radio, news, TV, through the news, through whatever it may be, through like whatever, like we're always getting bombarded, with sales calls and what marketing messages, and so people are hypersensitive. And that's probably what we're feeling more now today, where it appears that, okay, well, things are getting worse maybe within the real estate community with this. And I'm just going from my own experience. I don't know if it's getting worse in our industry as far as, those bad prospecting techniques that you're referring to. I haven't seen it necessarily, and for me personally, getting worse. It's just always been, there's been just been a lot of bad prospecting techniques, ineffective prospecting techniques that I've witnessed throughout my whole entire career. My best guess though is that it's, because now we're getting sold so many more times by just a conglomerate of every industry that exists out there. It's just, man, it's overload, and people are becoming hypersensitive to it, and so forth. So yeah, there's that big wall that comes up. But for me, and again, I don't think of this as good versus bad. I think of this as effective versus ineffective, right? So I'm looking for effective prospecting techniques or effective marketing techniques, whether you're marketing or prospecting. The differentiation there is prospecting, typically you're trading time for you're trading time for that activity, right? Where marketing is, okay, I'm going to go out there and trade money for that activity, right? So then from there, how do we go out there and combat this? And one thing I forgot to say I meant to say is that, look, we can't control other people's behaviors. We're not going to be able to go. I mean, I could create content till every day for the rest of my whole entire life on this podcast, encouraging people to stop doing these quote unquote bad or ineffective techniques, and they would still continue doing it. My reach is only so long, so long. People are just going to do what they're going to do. So we can't control what other people do. I can't change the fact that there's a lot of amateurs in our industry and those that choose to not take this business serious. But I can choose to take it serious myself. I can choose to be a great professional. I can choose, and part of being a great professional, in my opinion, is exuding professionalism in all aspects of our business, not just when we're meeting with clients. A lot of people think of professionalism just the way that they talk and the way that they dress, right? No, it's every aspect of this. How you present your branding, how you present your marketing, how you present your prospecting, how you present your offers, how you present every aspect of this. And offers, not just meaning real estate contracts. I'm talking offers, meaning offers that you're offering to the general public out there for prospecting and marketing and so forth. So that's all we can control is ourselves. So let's do them, have a hyper focus on ourselves and just have awareness of this. Okay, hey, look, I understand that the consumer is hypersensitive. They're being sold 24/7. They're sick and tired of the bullshit. Like you mentioned in here, what you said here is, hey, I myself, but the BS that we all now have to overcome before even getting to the point of having a conversation with our leads has reached a level of insanity. All right, so there's a couple things here because that's just a wall. That's just an objection. We got to remove that wall. So then that way we can have those effective conversations and have more conversations, right? And good quality conversations with this. So there's really a couple different components to this. And I did a podcast not too long ago where I talked about this, where it was, how to go out there and massively increase the amount of appointments that you set. I can't remember the exact title, but it's something along those lines. So having this understanding, and you guys, I have found just the understanding of human behavior and human psychology to greatly help me much more so than studying sales. Now they're both important, but the more that we can understand, I just get and understand that people hate being sold. And I went deep into that podcast, on this. It was a few episodes ago. So you guys can go back and check that one out. And I highly recommend that you do, because I talk about this exact point very heavily in there. People have this wall up. Well, we got to remove that wall down. And having that understanding of human behavior that people today, and this has been true for a long time, but people are just going to speak as of today. They want the ability to go out there and do their due diligence, do their research, get all the information that they need and that they want so they can make the best decisions for themselves and for their families. But they want to be able to do that in a safe, non-pressure, non-pushy environment. So again, they can collect that data, they can collect that intel without, again, that fear of being pushed, being pressured, being sold. And we're no different, right? Just wear your own consumer hat. How do you enjoy being treated during different experiences, different sales experiences, and so forth. So wearing that consumer hat, that becomes really powerful. So having that understanding. So one thing that I do, and I implemented this years ago inside my business, which is a very strict, absolute no pressure policy. So every conversation, from beginning conversation that I'm having with any lead, doesn't matter what lead source is, I'm just letting them know and I'm communicating to them that, hey, just so you know, we have a very strict, absolute no pressure policy. So you never have to worry about being pushed, pressured, sold, none of that. Right? We believe in treating others how we want to be treated. And for me personally, when I'm in a situation where I'm trying to gather information, make a decision, or possibly go out there and purchase a product or whatever, I can't stand nothing more than being high pressured push. I can't stand that. I don't believe in treating others how I don't want to be treated. So you don't have to worry about any of that. So I'm just here to answer all of your questions, give you all the information that you need to make the best decision for yourself and for your family, regardless of whatever that decision may be. And you can, again, I did like a 30-minute episode on just different ways, the power of this, human psychology, behavior. So, you can always go back and re-reference that. But that, and it's not just that first conversation, right? It is every conversation that I'm having with them, because it takes multiple experiences for people really to believe that it's true. No longer do people believe what people say. I mean, just look at it. I mean, look at our own leaders of our country. Look at, like, you can't take, like, people freaking just lie 24/7, right? To go out there and push through their agenda, whether it's selling them something or whatever it may be. So people are, again, hypersensitive to this. So just having that understanding, and then it comes from, okay, well, giving people what they want and the way that they want it, in a delivery mechanism of how they want it. And I'll go into some more specifics here with this. But okay, so that's number one, right? So that understanding, and then I'll bring all this together here with some example strategies. Okay, so then number two is then creating an offer. Right now, this is an understanding of, again, like what people want, how people want to be treated, and so forth. But creating an offer, that people, it's if you ever see the gangster movies, The Godfather, right? It's the Godfather offer, and I learned this from Dan Kennedy. But it's, he calls it the Godfather offer, but like, creating an offer that people can't refuse, but making them believe and understand that it's that comfortable environment. Because all we're trying to do, and you talked about this here in your question here about, people have lost, they're just so focused on transactions, and, thinking, okay, leads instead of human beings. They're not focused on the relationship, and so forth. And yeah, there that exists on a high level out there in all industries. And that's a resistance that we have to overcome. But having that understanding, okay, well, I can then choose to do things differently. I can choose to go out there and, again, give people what they want, to focus on that relationship, and then continue nurturing that relationship, right? So then over time, boom, when they're thinking of transacting in real estate, or they have that need for my services, they're thinking of me. So, you're talking about prospecting here. So let's just use FSBOs as an example. So when it comes to FSBOs, and this is really important, right? You got to understand the psychology and the timeline of every prospecting or marketing source that you're going after. And this is just, like what brilliant, like really great, strong marketers do. And we are in a saturated industry, so, it comes down to, man, you got to be way better at the service that you provide. Plus you got to be way better at marketing and prospecting than all your other competitors to go out there and win. Better service. And you got to be stronger, when it comes to serving your clients throughout the process, and you got to be stronger when it comes to marketing and prospecting. If you are not, you're going to struggle and have a lot of resistance in this industry. Okay, so I'll break this down personally as I'm going through, because okay, FSBO is different than an expired. FSBO and expires are both different than maybe Facebook buyer leads or Google pay-per-click leads, right? Like each lead source. And it's not because it's a different type of human being. It just means that they have different accomplishments that they're trying to accomplish, different time frames, and so forth. So let's just look at FSBOs. Okay, so let's first talk about psychology. Why does a FSBO want to sell on their own? What's the number one reason that they want to sell on their own? It is not to save the commission. That is reason number two. Number one is that they truly believe that they can do it on their own without the need of an agent. Not only that they truly believe that they can do it on their own, they believe that they can do as good, if not better of a job, right? So when they understand that, and the number two is the commission savings, right? So, but the number one reason is that they truly believe they can do it on their own and do as good, if not better of a job as a real estate professional, right? So if you ever try to talk somebody out of their beliefs, right? Like, good luck with that. It doesn't happen. Like get a hardcore Biden supporter and a hardcore Trump supporter, lock them in a room and say, okay, you guys got an hour to then talk the other person to switching sides. Like, good luck with that, right? They're probably gonna come out of there with a friggin' fist fight. Belief systems don't change through outside influences. Belief systems change internally, right? Like, we have to self-discover that our belief system was incorrect, inadequate, or wrong, and then we adopt a different belief system. So if I know that with FSBOs, and this is where, when you talk about bad prospecting, right? And I said that, I remove the good versus bad, and I look at effective versus ineffective. This is what affecting or good, in your words, prospecting would look like in my experience, in my opinion. Is having these understandings. Okay, so if I know that and I understand that, right? So we understand psychology. Okay, so these are people that want to go out there and sell on their own because they can believe that they can sell on their own, and so forth. Then from there, I then need to understand the timeline of each different lead source or each different prospecting or marketing source. So your average for sell by owner, it takes between 8 and 10 weeks on average for them of listing their home on their own in a normal market. I know that 2020, 2021 was just insane and they had more success than historically before, but we're out of that. We're back to more regular times, at least in most markets right now. And this won't last forever. Like all markets will go back to, we all have our cycles. So, like 90% of the time throughout our career, this will hold true for those that are in this for a long period of time. But it's 8 to 10 weeks of them going out there, listing their home on their own and going through resistance, going through struggles before they start to question their own belief system of, oh shit, maybe there's more to this. Maybe this is more difficult. Maybe this is harder. Well, then from there, I know that statistically 60% of FSBOs end up not just listing with a realtor, but listing and selling successfully with a realtor, right? And then you've got something like, NAR historically stats are only 8% of for sale by owner sell successfully on their own. Those that do sell, I believe sell for about 20% less than the average realtor property. I could be, I'm trying to go off memory in here, so you can fact check me on those if you look at NAR stats. But what I do know is that 60% end up listing and selling successfully with a realtor. So I know if I play this right, then, okay, I've got about 6 out of 10 FSBOs. I have a very high probability of those listing with me. So now that I know psychology, now that I know timeline, right now I can put together my effective, good prospecting techniques for those FSBOs. And I just give people what I know that they want. Okay, these are people that want to go out there and sell on their own. So like I've created a free for sale by owner resource kit. And inside that resource kit that we give them, gives them everything that they need to have more success on their own without a real estate agent. We're giving them blank purchase contracts. We're giving them guest registries so they can sign people in, and I'm teaching them how to follow up with leads and teach. I do in the free resource, I teach them how to do their own open houses. I teach them how to do online ads. I teach them, all of these different things. We give them a list of all of our vendors. Let them know that, hey, you don't need to, in the state of Arizona, you don't need to utilize a realtor to sell your property, but you do need to use a title company. You may want to have access to a good lender or two. You might need some home inspectors or different vendors. So we give them a vendor list, like just giving them all of these different resources in order for them to have success on their own. So what am I doing here initially out of the gate versus, what you might call bad or what I would call ineffective, same thing, bad, ineffective. Just bad at conversions with this. Most are just, bottom line upfront in their face, telling them how they're going to fail, telling them, but that's just like me telling a Trump supporter, oh man, you're stupid for voting for Trump, right? Like you need to be voting for Biden, right? Here's why, again, you're going to create a lot of resistance with that. I'm not trying to make this political here by any means. And I'm not, a Biden supporter either. So don't be bashing me for those of you that, took that the wrong way. So I'm just using that as an example, so then with that being said, I'm going to have a different technique. It sets me apart from my other competitors. And this is, your unique selling propositions. You got to be thinking about this at all times of what differentiates me from everybody else in my marketplace. How am I going to be different? How am I going to stand out? How am I going to get more yeses, more people to say yes to me? So when I reach out to FSBOs, and I lead off that conversation right away with, hey, look, I get and I understand what you are looking to do here and what you are trying to do, trying to sell your house on your own to get top dollar without utilizing a real estate agent. Look, I get it. I respect it. I honor that between you and I, even though I'm a local real estate professional here in the market. When I sell my own personal homes, I hate paying that big commission too. The reason why I'm reaching out is not to ask you for your listing, not to beg you for your listing, but we actually comprise and put together a very effective for sale by owner kit that allows you to have more success on your own without hiring a real estate professional. Here's what's included. And then I go, because you got to frame your different conversations. Like all of this has to be intentional. So then from there, because it's like, okay, the next part of like any presentation that you're giving. Now a script is a presentation. It may not be your listing presentation or buyer presentation, but it's a presentation, right? So, okay, each one of those phases, okay, I'm going to anticipate, well, what is the next wall block as to why they would say no? Well, people today, again, they're hypersensitive. There's no such thing as a free lunch, so they're going to be thinking, well, why the fuck are you helping me? Why the hell are you helping me? So then, dude, I just insert that right in there. So after I tell them all the great stuff that we're going to give them, boom, here's why we are doing this. Look, in the event, now, hopefully, between your efforts and all these free resources that are going to help you be more effective at getting your home sold on your own, hopefully that enhances and hopefully you go out there and have success selling your home on your own, right? But in the event you're unsuccessful with that, for whatever reason, if you get to the point where you decide, that you might need to enlist the help of a real estate professional. I'm not asking for your listing. I'm not asking for the job. I'm just asking for an opportunity to be one that you consider to allow me to interview for the job, to see if I'm a fit for you. I'm go out there and interview others as well. I'm just asking for an opportunity. Hopefully you appreciate everything that I provided for you to give me an opportunity to interview for the job. Right. So I go in there, I'll give other reasons, as well, in addition to that. How it can be a win-win, just planting those seeds of, hey, look, if you're selling and you're going to go out there and buy locally, as a buyer, you don't pay have to pay commission. So if you decide to work with me, a lot of our first sell by owners that we're able to help sell their home successfully on their own without paying and making commission, then we'll, use my services to go out there and buy a property because it doesn't cost them anything. And, then it's a win-win for both of us. Now, if none of those come true, look, other people in the area, friends, family members, coworkers, that might want to buy or sell in the future, that may choose to want to use an agent, not go, do this on their own. And again, the hope is that you appreciate all the resources that I provided for you. And then that maybe you refer in my name. You remember me and you refer in my name and get that referral business. Now let's just say none of those things come true and none of this ever leads to business. Now you can call this a little woo-woo, whatever, but I've just found that the more people I help accomplish their goals, the more my goals come true and accomplish as well. So then through this though, and I'm telling them that, hey, look, throughout this, I cannot represent you as a realtor, but I can be here to be a resource. So you're going to have questions, you're going to have, whatever. So then I let them know, hey, I'm going to be, when I get you the free resource kit, now I'm going to be checking in with you every single week. Just as again, don't think of this as a sales call. I'm not here to sell you anything. As I told you earlier, I'm a man of my word. I will never ask for your listing. I'll never ask for your business. That has to be something that you initiate from your end. I'm just here to be a resource and a friend, right? So any questions that you have, so I hold my word to that. I just keep every week calling, hey, how's it going? What's going on? Any question, anything I can do to support, help you. And I let them know that, with the fiduciary duty, it's kind of a fine line that we have to walk here. So, I can't, help you and give you, guidance as a realtor, but as your friend that just happens to be also local realtor, as a friend to friend. Okay, I can give you some advice just as a friend. Right. So just like we're just here, just think of me as just a friend. I'm a friend that can be a resource here for you. Right. So that is positioning yourself in a different manner. And we also will do an offer of mega open houses and other things on those. But I'm not, the point of this video or this podcast isn't to go deep into that strategy. It's to go deep into getting the wheels turning of, look, you've got to go out there and be more effective with your positioning. If you're doing things in the same way everybody else is doing, well, we're not going to have a lot of success, even if our style is okay. Well, we do it differently because we focus more on the relationship, where other people are just going in for the sale. Well, it's how is it perceived? Right. So offering certain things that give people what they want in the way that they want it. Right. But you're then allowing yourself to develop that relationship, position yourself as that realtor, as that resource over time, and each lead source is different because each one had slightly different psychology, slightly different timeline. But this is how you go out there and combat, that ineffective or bad prospecting that a lot of is out there, and position yourself for that. So, that's my 2 cents on that. A lot of different ways that you can do that, but with every different way that, I just break this down one by one, whether it be marketing or prospecting, be like, okay, what is our differentiator? What is the psychology? What is the timeline? Right. And then use when you're getting obstacles and objections from people, right? Well, then think of, okay, well, how can I do this differently that overcomes those obstacles? Like when I was calling expireds, man, it was just like, bam, I got, so many expireds that are like, man, you're the 30th realtor to call me today. You guys all want my business now, but you weren't, like, where were you when my home was on the market? Common stuff, right? So then I was like, okay, well, let me craft an effective mailer campaign that I can get across the message that I want to get across, but in a way that they want to get it delivered to them. And where I can then get them reaching out to me and calling me instead of me begging there for their business. And, it took a while to be able to put that together and figure out that mailing schedule, but now I've got a mailing campaign for expires that's maybe millions of dollars over the years of gross commissions, throughout the years, through that without having to pick up the phone. But it's because I dissected it, right? So that is how you go out there and deploy and create and deploy effective prospecting and marketing techniques. All right, so hopefully that's helpful. Okay, so then the next part here is, you're talking about your market right now. So you're fighting the fact that so many sellers can't sell because of the hurricane damage. Homes can't be insured because of open claims. Claims can't be closed of lack of contractors and materials, plus those who have a mortgage. The bank is holding the insurance money hostage. It's a vicious circle. So you're talking about, because the video that this question came in from, which I'll link at the end of this video, was me talking about transaction volume decline and how to combat that, hedge for that, adjust for that, which is something that we are all experiencing right now, regardless of what market that you're in. I talked about, how to do more transactions in a low transaction volume market. So when you talk about, okay, you got transactions down 50, you're talking here, 54% of Florida realtors have not renewed their license in 2023. Okay, that's a net positive, right, for you. I mean, that's going to be less competition. Yeah, lower transaction volume, but lesser competition, bigger piece of the pie, for you to be had. 44% of active listings over the past 2 months have been withdrawn. These are slightly different, higher numbers than my market. We've had about 34% that didn't renew over the last year or so. We have about 30% of listings that aren't selling, that are going withdrawn, canceling, getting pulled off market. But then you say roughly 2/3 of active listings have had drastic price reductions. Okay, and our market's declining. So we're seeing that as well. With that, but I'm not in a market with a hurricane. Right? So. And I don't know if this is a valid situation for you or not, but just in case it is helpful. And I know I talked about this in the last podcast that you responded to with this question on, but, getting with lenders, getting with title partners, getting with, because deals are pushing through and deals are closing. So I want to mastermind with as many people in my network as I possibly can, whether it be other top agents in the marketplace or other brokers I know in the marketplace, lenders that are doing volume in our marketplace, title companies that are doing a lot of volume in our marketplace. And I'm trying to identify, okay, like what are the scenarios? What are the, what are those pockets? What is taking place? What is happening? Where you're able to, that you're seeing, connecting the dots of what is being successfully pushed through, so then I can go out there and position and shift my target market. Like, look, you might have to change your niche. You might have to change, and adapt and change, your even geographical location. I was talking with a lady not too long ago, that was in a market in Florida that was just, devastated by Hurricane Ian. Based on what they're telling me, with the, amount of active listings and the amount of volume that was left that wasn't damaged by the hurricane and so forth, I was just like, look, I mean, and I saw this happen several years ago with all the fires that took place in Northern California, Southern Oregon. I have, friends that are up in Southern Oregon running real estate businesses and so forth. And man, you had whole entire cities that were just ripped apart by those fires. And I mean, it's years and years for those to be rebuilt, built back up and so forth. Well, we can't always wait years. So like the gal I was talking with the other, this is, I don't know, a month or two ago, maybe, that I was talking to, I was in Florida. I'm like, look, how far, like, what's the next biggest market to you? How far is that away? And I think she was, if I can remember correctly, I'm trying to go off memory here, but it was, like, I don't know, an hour, 45 minutes to an hour out of like Tampa. I'm like, okay, right. Temporarily, you might need to expand your market in Tampa, and that may be temporarily or permanent. Not to say that you can't still focus in the market that you're in once that rebounds and comes back and is rebuilt and so forth, right? Like you can right now focus at Tampa, build a small team out there, whatever it is that you want to do. So then when your market rebounds, okay, well, you can be focusing personally on the market that you want to focus on, but now you have a team that's going out there and that's in this other market, growing those opportunities. So thinking of that, okay, what are pockets that, because again, you were just looking at, okay, well, what's the resistance that we're experiencing? Can I just slide over here and not experience that resistance? It's like when I was doing a shit ton of direct mail. I would look at any given subdivision, and I was doing about 50,000 direct mail pieces every 21 days is what my geo farm built up to. But when I was analyzing and assessing a subdivision, I didn't want any subdivision that had more than one dominant agent and how I consider dominant agent is 20% market share or more. Ideally you would have no dominant agents with 20% or more market share. If there was one, that was okay. Let's just say there's one dominant agent, they had 25% market share in that neighborhood. Okay, well, there's 75% to gather and be had. Now there's a subdivision, a neighborhood, a master plan community in my area that a lot of people want to break into. I'd love to, have broken in there too, but I started assessing and analyzing. I'm like, man, you have 3 dominant agents. Between those 3 dominant agents, they had, like, at that time, 80% market share. I'm like, okay, yeah, I could probably break in there, but it's going to take insane amounts of time, energy, money, costs. Like I'm going to be up against a lot of resistance. So then I'm like, let me just slide down the street 3 miles and go to the neighborhood, down the street from it, where there's, no dominant agents, so I'd strategically pick those areas, based on that to remove resistance. I know that's not the same scenario that we're talking about here, but I start looking at, okay, or like if you go more in, like, are there, where are the markets or the pockets, even if you have to expand your market out a little bit, what are those areas or pockets where you don't have those same resistance that you can start growing and expanding your real estate business quickly and growing it in those areas where you don't have that same resistance, because I don't know how to overcome that resistance. I don't know how to go out there and control mortgage companies, insurance companies battling over this money or get more workers. And, maybe there's ways to do that, but I can't speak to you at any element of any level, on that, because I have zero experience with that. But I'm guessing that is something that's more out of our control. Well, what can I control? I can control going 45 minutes over here, because you look at this, like, okay, if you're opening up a storefront, we don't open up storefronts, just because it's, we want to, or, because it's close and convenient. No, you open up that storefront where you have the highest likelihood of your ideal proximity of your ideal clients. Like if I'm opening up a coffee shop and I want to sell $7, average cups of coffee or whatever, like a Starbucks style, more higher end coffee shop, whatever, like, you get my point there. I got to make sure that I'm plopping that location in a demographic area that the people want that and that they can afford that. Right? Versus I can't plop in a location where the people are looking for 50-cent Circle K coffee, right? So, you could strategically start sliding that over. And that's really how I built my business here in Phoenix. It's like, okay, like a lot of people are concentrated in, Biltmore area, the sexy kind of upper end places of Phoenix or Scottsdale, Paradise Valley. But I'm like, look, man, those areas are so saturated. So I started identifying, now this is a lot of years ago, but I started identifying the up and coming suburbs that were like, 45 minutes kind of positioned around central Phoenix, that, are up and coming, that were having a lot of new growth. But dude, agents didn't have market share. People weren't, now, and man, I got to drive from one of the markets that I work to the other side of the markets, like with traffic, it can be a 2-hour commute and drive. In the beginning, I was doing those drives. Then, okay, I got busy enough where, okay, I could hire a showing agent or hire an agent to go out there and just focus on that area and expand that area. So it was temporary for me working it. Now I have agents positioned in all these different markets. And I don't know how, I live in a 3-mile bubble from within my house. Like I don't leave my little 3-mile bubble, right? Because I strategically position that. So I'd look at those things there. I don't really know how else to combat that. Because who knows how long this is going to take to sort out. It's a terrible situation. But that's what I would do to kind of be proactive of looking for, those pockets, those areas, those next markets over, more markets inland that I can expand into. And the cool part about it is you don't even have to be the agent in those areas. Like you can go out there and do the lead gen or do the, the prospecting over the phone or whatever it may be, but doing the lead gen, lead follow-up, kind of playing ISA. Find strategic agents that you like, you trust, that can do a great job serving the client in those markets. So essentially you're setting the appointment for them. They're conducting the appointment and then getting the contracts, closed and all of that, splitting those deals 50-50. So there's ways around that to go out there and accomplish that and do that I'd be looking into. So anyway, hope that this is helpful. And for those again that are here watching and listening, as always, I truly appreciate you. If you have a question that you'd like me to answer, or a topic that you'd like me to go deeper on here on these GSD mode knowledge rounds, I don't want to promise I'm bringing this back. It'll be 100% predicated and dictated based on how many questions I get from you guys, because GSD mode knowledge round is going to be, again, if you're sending me questions, I'll do my best to answer all of those questions that come in. If I get flooded with them, I may not be able to answer all of them, but I'll do my best. Right. So just again, shoot me your questions, topics, or if you have guest interview ideas, Joshua@gsdmode.com. All right, guys, hope this is helpful. Keep crushing it. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.